everyone, and welcome to Homestead Rewind. Today we're in the camper kitchen. Come along with me and I'll show you what I'm up to. For those of you that are new to my channel, my husband and I have spent the last 3 years living in our camper. We just made a transfer from the suburbs of St. Louis to our homestead that we had 10 years ago. The first time around we had some trouble because we did not have YouTube, we didn't even have internet, and little resources on guidance on how to build our homestead. Now we're back at the farm and we're rebuilding, and this time with the help of the homesteading community we're going to be doing things right the first time. Some of you that have been with me for a long time know that I love to shop in bulk. I like to gather and preserve. While we were at the campground, I did raise container gardens just to see if I could do it and get familiar with it. But there was never enough food to actually gather and preserve. A few things I did, but not very many. I was just trying to beef up on my gardening skills because I hadn't used them in quite some time, so that when we come back to the homestead, I'd be able to get a head start on things. While I was in St. Louis, I had stumbled onto a restaurant surplus store where I was buying a lot of goods, and I have several videos of that. I'll leave a link to that playlist right up here and also in the comments below. Imagine how happy I was when I returned home to find that Buffalo has one of these restaurant surplus stores. The very first thing I noticed when I walked through the door is the large coleslaw bags, like I was buying up in St. Louis and bringing home, dehydrating, just to store food for us for this winter. And my drying is always an experiment since I have never preserved food that way before. And I'm taking you guys along on that journey to see how I learned how to preserve food in that way and then how to use it. It's been really busy since we returned to the homestead, and I haven't had very much time to do any cooking or preserving videos. Hopefully, as time goes on, I'll be able to pick back up on those for those of you who really enjoy watching me stumble through trying to learn something new and my crazy experiments. Another thing I do is wait for pork to go on sale, and I buy it in the whole loins. For the pork that I have in the freezer right now, I have paid as low as $1.29 a pound. I'll cut some of them up into pork chops and some of them into like roasts. I make pulled pork out of these, but today I'm going to show you how I use them in a different way, especially since I was able to find that cabbage. Today I'm going to be making egg rolls. The very first thing I did when I got my coleslaw home is put it in a stock pot with just enough water to keep it from burning or sticking, and cooked it down for quite a little while. This package was 16 cups of coleslaw mix, and that's what it boiled down to. I put it in the refrigerator because I really didn't have the time, and besides that, it needs to cool down before you start working with it when you're filling your egg rolls. Okay, so I started out with a 5-pound loin that is semi-frozen. It's a whole lot easier to cut up a semi-frozen. Now I want to talk about my knife here. I like the long knife because it cuts the whole loin at once. And it looks like my knife's getting a little bit dull. The reason I love the rotted knives so much is because when they dull down like that on you, give them just a couple of slides, and these sharpeners are sold anywhere the rotted knives are sold. Make sure you don't have any slivers. See how much easier that is? I mean, they really do sharpen up so easily. And this knife I've had for over 10 years. It came in a set of knives that a good friend named Eileen got me for my birthday. And I've just added to that collection ever since. I don't want to use any other kind of knife except for a rotted knife. You want to just drop them in one at a time. You don't want to go really fast. I never did get a pummel with my, I guess you would call it a pummel with my KitchenAid mixer. So I use my rubber bottom wooden spoon to do this. I don't push it all the way in, because if you push too hard on it, it locks up on you down there. So I just kind of give it a tap every now and then. when I see it's coming through, I just add some more. The reason I'm telling you all this is because it took me a long time to figure out how to get my meat ground up in the KitchenAid. The first few times were just disastrous. Okay, it looks like it's going through really good now. I'll catch up to you as soon as I get all of this pork ground up. Okay, now that I've finished that, I thought of a few things that I wanted to tell you. If you are not using the actual tool that goes with the KitchenAid, you do want to be very careful. And you always want to keep glancing in there to make sure that your meat is not clogging up. Because if you don't make sure that each piece of meat is getting into that grind wheel, then it starts sticking together and it clogs up and takes forever. It really is a slow process with one of these KitchenAid mixers when you're grinding up meat. If you don't have the right tool, you need to be very careful and not get it stuck in there. If you just keep tapping on that, it eventually catches into that auger and grinds down. Now the trouble with these is unless there's pressure coming from behind, it doesn't push the meat on down that auger. It just keeps sliding around. It's a plastic auger. I really don't like the way this works. I've had to adapt to learn how to use this because it's what I've got. One thing I always do is make sure I tear this down completely right there on the spot. I don't let any of my meat dry up in there. I don't give it a chance to. I just want to make sure, because it's really hard to clean. Besides that, there's a lot of ground meat inside this auger still, and I want to get that out. I'll put these in hot soapy water as soon as I get all of the ground pork out of there. Okay, this is what I come out with right here. I'm going to salt and pepper that really good. Put some Himalayan pink salt in there. And this is just to your taste, whatever you think you like. And I'm going to put some pepper in there. At this point in the game, I'm going to put some ginger. I keep my ginger in the freezer, and I just grate it off as I need it with one of these little graters. You want it to be fine. And I'm going to put quite a bit in there because ginger's what makes Chinese food Chinese food. Besides that, it's really, really good for you. And really, you just need to do it to your taste. If you don't like ginger, you don't have to put ginger in it. If you really like ginger, like me, put a lot. Okay, now I'm just going to mix that up really good. Alright, that should get it. I'm going to put it on the stove and let it start cooking now. Okay, so now that I've got my ground pork cooking on the stove on a medium heat, I'm going to get the cabbage ready now. This is the setup I use. There's hundreds of different ways you can do this, but this has worked out really good for me. I just happen to have these all together. Alright, you'll notice that both of these have holes in them. And this one just fits right down in that so nicely. Put my cabbage in there. I love the smell of cabbage. And then I'm just going to take this one and push down as hard as I can. And then I'm going to turn it sideways to let all that juice run out. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if I'm getting that on the camera. I'm just going to squeeze it tight. Do it again from this angle. See, it's squeezing it off the top of the cabbage and the bottom of the cabbage. So if you have a setup like this, it's really awesome. But you can use your hands, just squeeze out a little at a time. Put it in a different bowl. I've done that before too. But see how much liquid is coming off of that even after I squeezed it once before? I want to try to get all that out of there. Okay, that looks like about all I'm going to get. Quite a bit more water. And that's ready to be put in the mixture now. I've got my sausage fried up and now it's cooling off. While it does, I'm going to get some other ingredients ready. But first I wanted to tell you about this. See the price on that? 25 cents. This is what I bought the egg roll wrappers for at the restaurant surplus store. I don't know why that's so hard for me to say every time. And I put them in the freezer, so I'm a little bit nervous about how that's going to affect rolling them up, but we'll find out here in a minute. Also, I want to tell you about my eggs. The very first day I brought the chickens home, I got 14 eggs. That was pretty awesome. And they're still laying. I am having a couple of hens that aren't getting along so great, so I've had to separate them. I'll tell you more about that in another video. Alright, I'm going to whip up one egg. So my sausage is cooled, and I've gathered all my other ingredients, and now I'm going to put it all together. First thing is the sausage. Remember, that was a 5-pound loin that I ground up, minus a little snack for Jay. He's come in, and I think he's hungry, so we're going to save some for him. Doesn't have to be exact. You don't even have to put sausage in it at all if you don't want to. You can even put shrimp or whatever you want. Same applies to your vegetables. I probably would have put some celery in this if I'd have had some. I've got the ground pork in. I'm going to add, and if you've seen my meatloaf, you know I have no problem putting my hands in my food. I know they're clean. And really, God gave you hands for a reason. They're the best tool you could have in a kitchen. I'm just going to mix that in gently till it's all incorporated. Bowl almost isn't big enough. Well, actually, my bowl is not big enough. Story of my life. And I know my hands are nice and clean because I've been scrubbing up all the dishes that I used for this as I went along. So I didn't have a humongous mess, and besides that, in the camper you just don't have room. I'm going to put in some garlic. Probably could have done that when I put in my cabbage mixture. And that is 3 medium-sized cloves of garlic, minced very fine. The next thing I'm going to put in is 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce and 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And for that, I'm going to use the spatula because it's sticky. And that's another thing that's all to taste. You just want to mix it pretty good. And truly, if I had a bowl that was big enough that went with my KitchenAid for a batch this size, I would have used the dough hook on it. Ground pork is crumbling up just fine and incorporating very well. Let's clean this up, and then we're going to start rolling. You have to be really, really gentle with these. And you just need to use patience. And when it comes to dough, I have 0 patience, like pie dough. That's why you probably will never see me make a pie on here. One thing you want to make sure of is that you have it in a triangle. You want a pointy side towards you. That's the way to start these. And it's really the biggest trick to it all. And you put your good healthy amount in there and make it into form like a log. And then flip your bottom triangle over, and then with your hands like this, roll it just until that's tucked in and you're even with your corners. And push that up, pull this over. It's almost like folding an envelope. And then roll them over. Then you want to use your egg yolk and use the egg yolk and lots of it. I've always had failure because I didn't realize that you needed to do that. And there you go. It's wrapped up. Now I'm putting them on a cookie sheet, and then I'm going to take them out and set them in my deep freeze and let them freeze, and then we'll put them in a Ziploc bag so that they can be taken out quickly. I'm just laying that over, but then I want to tuck that pointy end under and just sort of form the log shape there. Roll it pretty good. Tuck this side in. Tuck this side in. Pull your pointy ends together. Roll it once more. Put loads of egg yolk on it. Wrap it on up. I'm being messy with this, so I'm going to need to wipe this down and make sure it's dry before I do my next one. That's something you may want to be careful of. Okay, that's going to wrap it up. If you guys like this video and would like to see more, don't forget on your way out to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. I reached my 100 subscriber goal in 6 months and gave away a t-shirt. I'm sure when I reach my next 100, I'll be giving away another one. There's lots of exciting videos coming up. Stay tuned for those. Until next time, love and peace to everyone.